Welcome back to the Way Back Chronicles podcast, brought to you by Noel Kirsch, Keith Abbott, and myself, Steve McKelkey. So this episode is a special Christmas holiday episode. And, first of all, Merry Christmas to all our listeners and to those of you of other faiths. We want to, and beliefs, we want to welcome you, celebrate this time of year, which is a special year for everybody across the world in one way or the other. And so we thought we'd dedicate this holiday episode to just some great memories, some great traditions, a variety of different things that we want to share. And so we've reached out to not just the three of us, but to our friends and family members to also be involved in this episode. We're very excited to have them join us. So
yeah. And so what we thought we would do, and again, like Steve said, the three of us are aware of the Christian faith. And so a lot of this is going to center around, obviously, the Christmas tradition, this Christmas holiday. But we definitely would love to hear stories from our listeners of different faiths and tell us some of their favorite memories of their holidays and the things that they celebrate. So please send us some feedback on our social media platforms, especially on Facebook, and let us know some of your favorite memories of Hanukkah, of Kwanzaa, or whatever you may celebrate. So we'd sure love to hear some of those memories of yours too, because I think they're all so very special. But like Steve said, we've got three different topics that we really had discussed and sent out to some of our listeners to talk about. And I guess what we'll do is I'm going to start it up, and I'm going to ask a question of you two, Noel and Steve, and I'll answer it too. And we'll just kind of go around the horn and talk about the three different things. And so really the three different questions are: what was your favorite gift to get as a kid? What is your favorite Christmas memory? And then what's one of the traditions that you do as an adult that you might have carried forward from your memories as a child with your family now? So I guess I'm going to start off with that question to you guys. What is your favorite tradition that you might have continued on or enhanced in some way now that we're married and have our own adult Christmas traditions? What did you guys do to kind of carry those traditions between either you or your spouses into what you all are doing for each other now?
That's a good question. For me and Robin, we sort of have a blend of family traditions now, and nothing really consistent. It seems like we try to either spend Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, where it's just the two of us. Mm-hmm. And whatever the other alternative day is usually a day with extended family. And it's usually, either having turkey, ham, whatever, playing games, a few adult beverages, and just sort of I love when we get together with Robin's family, because we do this big white elephant gift exchange, and
Fun.
Sometimes the gifts are insanely hilarious, sometimes inappropriate, and sometimes full of alcohol. And so you never know what you're going to get. And of course, the bottles of alcohol is what gets stolen from others and traded,
I'm sure,
whatever. So anyway, so rarely do those bottles leave empty as well, or leave unopened. So that's really, I guess, what Rob and I do.
That's awesome. What about y'all, Noel?
Family traditions. So there's a lot of traditions that we have. It's funny, like we just do the things, we don't even realize that those are the traditions. Mm-hmm. One of the things that we used to do every year is my parents would have our family friends over for Christmas dinner. And they were pretty elderly friends, and we'd bring them over. There were probably like 6 or 7 of them, and none of them are with us anymore. So I guess I kind of like miss those times. I mean, because we can't ever have them again. But we would bring them over, and the whole family would be like, the whole day before or the whole day of them coming over, we'd be getting the house ready and cleaning stuff up. And it was a big ordeal. It was just a big deal. We all had a really nice dinner, and it was just kind of a celebration of the season and just spending time together. And, it was just a lot of laughter and stuff. But one of my favorite memories, if my brothers or my mom, especially my mom, is listening to this, she's probably going to turn off the radio. But she had this big idea to have these candles in these paper sacks. Like she wanted to put sand at the bottom and put a candle in it, and then put a paper sack, and then like have that all along the sidewalk, so that whenever they got out of their cars, they walk down this sidewalk, with all these candles and stuff, which is a great idea. It's pretty cool. The problem is that you've got like 4 teenage boys. And so we thought it'd be cooler if you set the bags on fire and had like you walk by fire things and stuff. So she looked out the front door and there's all these bags on fire and stuff. And
my gosh,
she was not very happy with us.
That's awesome.
But no, that's one thing. And then we kind of carry that tradition on where we just kind of have friends and family together, and just have a big meal like on Christmas Eve and stuff. We always have tamales and, just the foods and stuff, I think are more our traditions. But
yeah,
it's kind of a long rambling answer, but that's
just memories. It's hard to put it into like one concise thing.
There's a lot. I think the underlying theme is just, meeting together and being together, families and friends, getting everybody together to kind of celebrate the season. So I'm
absolutely
wrapping all that big long answer up into 2 sentences. But.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I think for me, it was a little hard for me to really start a tradition with my spouse because we're a blended family. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of those family traditions were already established. So one of the things that we ended up doing, I actually stole this. My friend Mark, who's had a couple of sound clips on previous episodes, his dad, I couldn't wait Christmas Eve. We'd have our families get together in the afternoon, then we'd go to our candlelight carol service at church. And then Mark was Catholic, so he was at the church across town. And then whenever that was over, I couldn't wait for I hate to be that way, but I couldn't wait for our candlelight service to be over because I would like beeline it up to Mark's house. And their family tradition on Christmas Eve was they would have fondue. Oh. And they would his dad would have one present that they would open Christmas Eve, and it was a board game. It was some sort of a game. And so that was the tradition that they had every year, was he would open a game that everybody would play that night. And so I thought that was so cool that we've continued that at our house. And so every year we open a game for all of our family to play. And this year we had our Christmas, we're recording this on the 19th. We had our Christmas last weekend for all the family to come in from out of town. And this year was the game Pencil Nose. I don't know if y'all have ever played this yet.
You sent a picture of it. I never heard of it. It looks awesome.
It's crazy fun. It's a good time. So enjoyed it. but yeah, that's one of our good traditions. And we heard from one of our listeners. In fact, it was one of the first winners that we had from Wayback Swag, Kristen Boulay. And she also has a great family tradition clip that she's going to share with us now.
My favorite Christmas tradition is when my 2 children and my husband and I get to sit and watch our favorite Christmas classics like White Christmas, Die Hard. Yes, it's a Christmas movie. And of course, Home Alone. But Home Alone is really special because last year my 2 children, Grace and Michael, had bought a Lego set. And it was the Lego Home Alone set. And they built it while we were watching the movie. And it's really cool. It's got all the things. It has the little people, even the creepy guy across the street you weren't sure about. It has the sled that comes out the front door. It has the swinging paint can. It has the spider, which, hated that scene. And then it has, even in the basement, the light comes on the furnace when Kevin gets scared. And it's got the tree house and the little truck the dudes drive. And it's just really packed full of really cool stuff. So it ties it in. It's definitely our favorite. And I hope you guys have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Y'all are definitely my all-time favorite podcast. I'm a huge, huge fan. And I just wanted to say Merry Christmas, you filthy animals.
And she's not the only one. We have other folks that we've heard through about some family traditions. And one of those was Steve Kirsch, Noel's brother. And he had a great memory of his favorite family tradition. So let's hear it now.
Favorite tradition we do now is to read the Christmas story before On Christmas Eve, something that we just do is open up the Bible and read the biblical story of Christmas with family. We do that every year, and something that we always treasure.
This is from Steve's sister-in-law, Maura, that tells us a little bit about her favorite family tradition.
My favorite tradition is, and has always been, Christmas Eve gumbo at Sweetie and Mikey's.
So, guys, I'm interested to hear, like, what is your favorite present that you received for Christmas as a kid?
I'll let you start, Steve.
Steve, what Larry Bird basketball memorabilia did you get? Do you remember?
Man, I tell you what, I feel like I had to fulfill myself when it came to Larry Bird stuff. My parents weren't nearly as interested in supporting my Larry Bird love as I wanted them to be. But no, I still remember it to this day. And I had an idea something was coming because a couple of days before Christmas, and I want to say I was maybe 7, 8 years old, maybe a little bit younger. We lived in Victoria, Texas at the time. I heard this sounds coming from the garage. It was late at night. And so I walked out to the garage to see what was going on. My dad was out there building this big wood train track station.
Oh,
and he had painted and he was nailing the railroad tracks around the perimeter of the board. It had the rows painted on it and everything. And
so cool.
I was like, my dad looks at him and goes, "Go back to bed." And of course, I could barely sleep that night because I was so excited. I think my dad's made me a train track. So anyway, I was super geeked about the idea. I was going to get a train set for Christmas, so I could barely contain myself. And I played with that thing relentlessly for years after that. I mean, it was probably like my most used toy ever.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
And the cool thing is, our listeners probably don't know this, but we do estate sales as part of as our career now, and both my wife and I run the sales together. And this most recent sale had the exact train sets that I
oh, no
kidding! When I was a kid. It was all I could do to not buy those things again.
Oh, I bet.
It was super cool to see, and they were in great shape, and brought back a lot of memories. So that's my favorite gift for sure.
That's cool. Keith? Man, I tell you, my parents did good, and Santa did good for me too. We mentioned another podcast. Definitely, the Millennium Falcon was up there. But I can tell you there was a couple of really neat things that stood out, and I think that one Christmas, and there's a picture. I'll post it on Facebook, but it's a picture of like the Sears catalog or whatever of that Christmas, and it had like the Death Star, the Millennium Falcon, and all. I mean, and again, Steve, forgive me, but this is just me, right? And but it was like Star Wars paradise between what Santa brought me and what my parents brought me. And it was like, I will never, ever, ever forget that morning waking up to that. And I was like, just, this is the coolest thing I cannot believe that this is in front of me in my living room. It's just, it's hard to put into words that feeling of how awesome that is. And it's funny because, you look back on those catalogs, like the Millennium Falcon was like $26.99, the Death Star was like $38.99 or something like that. And it was like, I thought they were like thousands of dollars, or something like that when I was a kid. I'm like, this is crazy. But yeah, it's like the whole living room probably cost $100, which was probably quite a bit at the time.
Yeah.
But it's just so funny to think about how different it is today. But yeah, I mean, just I can't put it into words just which one, whether it was the Santa gift or the parent gift, or just the whole way that I don't know how they coordinate these parents and Santa have a good way of doing it, but they coordinated good, and it was just a magical Christmas and unreal.
That's awesome. That is awesome. I think I've talked about one of my favorite Christmas presents on a prior episode, but the blue remote controlled truck that I got, the Bigfoot remote control truck, that was probably my favorite, or one of my favorites. The other one was my first BB gun, and my brother had an old like Daisy one, it had like the single, you know what I mean? And and you could literally like shoot it straight in your hand and wouldn't even break the skin, kind of thing.
Right.
The BB gun that I got it was a pump, like you could like pump it up manually,
baby.
and it could shoot pellets too. So you could like had a little thing that you could put pellets in, and man, I thought I was the coolest. And that was one year. And the next year I got a pistol BB gun, and it had like the CO2 cartridges, and I thought that was I thought it was like Buck Rogers cool at that time. Like, dude, this thing is legit, you know? But yeah, those were, awesome. And I shot, that's where I learned to shoot, was with that little BB gun, and I could pump that thing up like 20 times. And I thought that's like, man, and it was pretty tight, of course, tight to a like 7 or 8 year old, or however I was, but
right.
Pretty cool. One of my
amazing.
Favorite gifts.
Awesome.
This was clearly, for our listeners, the favorite topic that we asked about. And so we have quite a few clips to share of some of the greatest Christmas gifts that our friends and listeners definitely wanted to share with us. So we asked Steve to come on again to tell us about what his favorite present was as a kid. And it's one that hits close to my heart too.
Favorite present as a kid, no doubt, was the Atari 2600. Getting that as a Christmas present, getting cartridges and things like that to play with, that was a lot of fun, and really enjoyed that. Of course, then there was the Atari 5200. I got a couple Christmases later, but the old Ataris were fantastic.
Tanner Terrell is a buddy of mine that I've known for over a decade now, hard to believe, and he wanted to share with us his favorite toy or item that he got for Christmas.
This is Tanner from Lubbock. My favorite Christmas memory was when I was 10 years old. Up until that point, I was really big into drums, always wanted a drum set. I finally bought some drumsticks. I played on pots and pans. I played on pillows. I played on anything I could, always wanting drums. So when I was 10 years old for Christmas, my parents, for our big gift, did a scavenger hunt throughout the house. And it took a long time. It was very detailed, and we went all throughout the house. And when we got to where my final gift was inside of a closet, and inside there was a snare drum. Now, don't get me wrong, I was pumped to finally have an actual drum to play on, but I really wanted a drum set. But I knew that was very expensive and hard to do. So I was really excited to have my snare drum. I played on my snare drum. My brother played on it. We played on it for about an hour or two. And then finally, my mom and dad said it was too loud to take it down to the basement. So I went down to the basement, and my whole drum set was down there. And so you talk about a big surprise, because I thought Christmas was over. And then I saw that full drum set, and it was the neatest thing I've ever seen. But not only that, my dad got us tickets to watch the Cowboys 2 days later that year. So the very next day we left and headed to Dallas, went and watched the Cowboy game. And then I got to come back home, and there was my drum set again in the basement, and started learning how to play the drums. So, when I was 10 years old, that was my best Christmas.
Noel and I have a mutual friend that we didn't know about until we started this podcast, Gary Massengill. And Gary, he is coming on to share his favorite Christmas memory, too.
Hey, Keith and Noel, it's Gary Massengill here. Famous class of 93 at Clifton High School, Angelo State, 1997. I think Noel graduated like 25 people in front of me out of a class of 70 in 1993. So my favorite Christmas memory, it's either 89 or 90. I got a new stereo. It had a record player, 2 cassette decks, and a CD player. 12-inch woofers, which could shake the pictures on the walls of the house. And my first CD, I probably shouldn't admit this nowadays, was New Kids on the Block. They had good stuff for a little while, then they proceeded to disband not too long after that, maybe 3 or 4 years. Anyway, that was a good time to either 8th grade, freshman year, or something like that, to be a kid. And we didn't have near as much junk to deal with as these kids do nowadays. Good luck on the podcast. Hope y'all knock it out.
Kristen comes on again to tell us what her favorite Christmas gift was.
My favorite Christmas gift is really easy. It was my sophomore year of high school Christmas, and my father and mother got me a Buffet R13 clarinet. it was a professional level clarinet, and I can honestly tell you, I don't remember a single thing else that I got that Christmas except for that. I think I sat with it pretty much the whole day and carried it around. I think I played it constantly. For the next 24 hours, it was just the most amazing thing I could have ever been given at that time in my young musical career. I do think it was the reason that I became a musician and a music educator. It was really quite extraordinary. Best gift ever.
And well, those are awesome clips. Thanks for sharing, everybody. So, guys, let's talk about our favorite Christmas memories. What comes to your mind?
Man. Like, I already knew the answers to the questions, and it's still a hard one to narrow down. So I will go ahead. Noel.
No, go ahead.
I would just say I'll be a downer, right? so my mom passed away this year, and that was basically my last parent to go. So I think this year it's different for me because I really feel truly like just knowing how awesome and happy my family was when they were all together and laughing. I think that was more fun than any trip or memory or gift. It was just when my family was all together and healthy and happy. Man, couldn't beat that. Couldn't beat the laughter. They were always joking. They were always laughing. I'm biased, obviously, but you just look at it back on it going, man, that is the ideal family to have as a child. You know what I mean? Just nothing but happiness and laughter and love and sharing. And, it's one of those things where you always look for the black sheep, and if you can't find them, it's probably you. So I was probably the black sheep, but that's okay. No, I'm kidding. But no, it was just, I think just, it's a different feeling now to answer that question. Knowing that I had that and I miss it, so it's definitely hits home more this year as I'm thinking about Christmas than ever before. So not trying to be a downer, but it's an awesome feeling, awesome feeling.
Understand.
Absolutely, man. I think for me, I remember, as a child, late in bed, going to bed, being really excited on Christmas Eve, believing that Santa Claus is going to come to the house. I think it's kind of weird, but I think one of my favorite Christmas memories is being in awe of Christmas, not being able to go to sleep because I was so excited about the next morning and opening presents and what Santa Claus was going to bring. And I remember it's funny, remember my really small details of where I was in my grandpa's house in Highlands, Texas, and just that feeling. I miss that feeling, as an adult now.
Magic.
And it is. And I hope that that's there for kids these days. I want them to have that and preserve that for as long as we possibly can for our children. But I remember that as that's probably my favorite Christmas memory, is just kind of the magic of all of it, and looking up at the star or two and picking out the brightest star and going, gee, I wonder if that's over the manger, or if that's the same star that was over the manger way back when. But just cool stuff. But I think just the innocence of being a child back in Christmas was sort of my favorite memories.
I was always excited about Christmas Day, but Christmas Eve to me is still the most 9:00 at night on Christmas Eve is the most magical moment in the year. It's just the anticipation, the knowing that Santa's coming, not having a clue what's going to be there when you wake up, and not wanting to go to bed, but somehow you can't hang on. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's the coolest. It really
is. No question.
Yeah.
Steve.
For me, I'll share a few memories. First of all, going to my grandma and grandpa McKelkey's in San Antonio, they always had mistletoe hanging somewhere.
Awesome.
And so I never wanted to be kissed. And so I was constantly looking out for the mistletoe to make sure I didn't put myself in that position. And, but much like Keith, I have great parents, and I unfortunately lost my mom 5 years ago. and very, very thankful for them. And I think I appreciate more now as time goes by. And Keith, I will tell you, it will get easier, and keep those memories fond, close to your heart, because that's what it's all about. My mom was just a rock star at Christmas time, and she always was, but she baked nonstop. Everything was just like she it was almost like the Disney experience, putting those special effects on everything that she did, and it was just so fun, and just couldn't wait to see what she came up with next, and so miss that. We try to recreate that as much as possible, not knowing exactly how she did it, so always thankful for that. But I'll share another funny memory. So I remember I was a kid, and one of my uncles had this bright idea to take all the adult gifts and remove the to from tags and replace them with poker cards. So he take the cards to all that thing, and then you drew a card. And so the adults got whatever card matched up on the present. And so one of my uncles is getting women's underwear, and just I remember my grandma McKelkey being so upset with my Uncle Gary. And so I always think of that as a funny thing, and something I've been tempted to do to replicate what Uncle Gary did, but I'm trying to keep myself in good graces these days.
I think that's smart.
It's probably smart.
Yeah. Oh, that's so great, though. It has to be your uncle, too. It wouldn't be right if it wasn't an uncle that did that.
And it's the uncle that you would expect to do stuff.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Every family has that uncle that that's the one you got to look out for. That is so great. Oh, my goodness. Well, we have some listeners that have some really good memories and traditions of some of their favorite Christmases. Steve's sister-in-law, Maura, again, tells us a little bit more about her favorite Christmas memories.
My favorite childhood memory is just when my dad would take off at Christmas and we got to be home for 2 weeks.
And Kristen comes on again to tell us her favorite childhood Christmas memory.
My favorite childhood Christmas memory is really more than one. The first part of the memory is when I was little, before 10 years old, and we would have the most extravagant Christmas holidays at my grandmother's and my uncle's house. They lived in the same, it was kind of a 3-stacked house in Boston, Massachusetts, and we would, the whole family would get together. We'd have 60, 70 people at any given time, and it was very extraordinary. The tables were done almost very regal, very royal looking, the finest china, the finest crystal and silverware, and they looked so amazing. You couldn't even get close to it because you felt like if you touched anything it would just break, but it was just so beautiful to look at. And we were dressed to the nines. I mean, every aspect of that holiday time was just beautiful. But my other favorite Christmas childhood memory, I was a little bit older, and my father insisted that I learn to play the flute, even though I was given the clarinet as my choice in 6th grade. But he insisted I play the flute because he was a guitarist, and he would sing and play the guitar, and we would play Christmas carols together as I played the flute with him. And that was a really special time to play for the family. The whole flute thing came about because he wanted me to play the solo for the Nights in White Satin song by Moody Blues, if we even know who that is for you youngsters. But those were two of my favorite memories.
Guys, I think this was a great episode.
Yeah, definitely.
It's always good to go down memory lane and kind of talk about special season, because Christmas is one of the special seasons. It's awesome to share the individual memories that all of us had and kind of look back on our childhood days, and it's funny how those memories stay with you. And now as adults with kids and grandkids and things like that, it's kind of good to go back and remember like what it was to look through their eyes, when we were their age, and
wonder how they did it. Wow.
Right.
You know,
Right.
like, are we as good at doing this as they were to me? Because man,
yeah, we got big shoes to fill.
definitely.
You guys all say this. Haven't met Steve's mom and met Keith's mom. Both of you guys had great moms, and
well, you too.
Well, yeah, my mom is amazing. I love her to death. Definitely a mama's boy, but you guys had great moms, and like we talked about the holidays and stuff like that. I mean, it's clear that you guys are the men that you are because the moms that you had, and
no question.
So thanks for sharing your memories about your moms and about the good traditions and stuff that you guys had as growing up, and thanks for all the listeners too that participated and sent recordings.
Absolutely. Thank you.
It's a great episode to kind of get everybody to participate. Thanks for everybody that sent those in. And we'd love to hear your comments on Facebook and, on just share some of your traditions and your favorite toys and things like that.
Send some pictures. If you guys have childhood pictures of Christmas morning or whatever holiday morning, let's see them.
We would love to see that. Love to see that. So very good stuff, but
awesome.
All right, fellas.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
And this concludes season 2, and we'll be ready for season 3 next week with Steve's introduction to 1986. So very excited to get back on track. It's been a fun season with football and some more memories. So we'll keep this momentum going into the new year.
Yep.
Thanks a lot, everyone, for listening.
Thanks, everybody.
Merry Christmas.
Appreciate it.
Merry Christmas.
All of us at the Wayback Chronicles wish each of you the happiest of holidays. We also want to thank you for your support in the first full year of our podcast. And as I've said before, all shows are written and produced by Noel, Keith, and Steve. Massive thanks to those who made these memories possible for us through the years. All songs, sounds, and effects have been attributed in the comments section and through links listed on waybackchronicles.podbean.com. We look forward to taking you way back again in the very near future.